Hello dear racing fellers, I'm Sim Racer, and this time I'm talking from the place where my Lamborghini car lives in. Today I'll be doing the analysis of my driving again. Previously I have done analysis of Pikerniki racing circuit, this time it's Outer-Ring circuit in Pärnu, Estonia. Somehow this video will be a really long one. Even if I try to make it as short as possible, I have more experience here than in Pikerniki, so I really have to share a lot of info. I would encourage you to write your questions or comments here in YouTube or on Facebook, as other people may be also interested in reading that. As after my analysis about Pikerniki, people mostly were writing me just privately on Messenger. The ones who have watched my other videos or checked my Facebook already know that all the weekend we were having the problem with the noise of Lamborghini car. Our car was just too loud. So we were not able to have proper testing and our qualifying session was totally ruined. Why we are slow in qualifying, you may ask? First of all, we are not able to go full throttle and full reverses of the engine, just to make sure we are within the noise limit. Secondly, it could be that not enough camber of the rear wheels was to blame for the oversteer, and especially in high-speed corners. Why? Because Lamborghini car is generating downforce, and the faster you go, the more G-force it generates. For example, higher lateral G-force requires more load from the tires, so the tires are bending more. So when there is not enough camber, plus the tire is bending a lot, the inside part of the outside tire is not biting the tarmac. Thus, the grip of the tire is reduced. Lastly, because of noise restrictions, we're channeling the exhaust flow down, so we were ruining the rear end downforce. We believe this also could be the significant factor of vast oversteer in high-speed corners. Why I'm talking about setup issues of the car? Because they really influenced the way the car had to be driven. In most other corners, I was feeling as I was driving a skid car. By the way, I had an opportunity to drive a skid car. It was a competition between racing drivers. It was fun, and most fun for me was probably that I won this competition. So it looks like I'm not that bad in oversteer a car, but even if I'm not bad in oversteer a car, in Pärnu that weekend, still I wasn't able to attack corners and not able to accelerate early out of the corners. Now let's look at the full fastest lap of Outer-Ring. And as usual, after we watch this lap, I'll divide this lap to the small sections and then I'll be commenting them. First corner. Fast corner with a speed of 210 km per hour. Not much to say about this corner. Entry of the corner is an easy one and not important, as anyway we're entering full throttle here. The middle of the corner is more tricky one, and the last part of the corner is the most tricky, as here starts the braking phase to the second corner, and here the brake balance is really tricky one, As if we push the brake balance motor to the rear, we will have unstable rear end during the braking phase. But if we push the balance more to the front, we may have the understeer to the corner entry to the second corner. So we have to really play with choosing the balance of the brakes. On this particular lap, I was not fully confident in this corner, as on the previous lap I was having oversteer here. I have mentioned the most likely reasons of that already in this video, but additionally, this oversteer may have happened because of my rear left tire was not fully up to the temperature or correct pressure yet. The reason behind it is that this corner is a right-hand corner, while most other corners at this track are left-hand corners. So it means in this corner, those tires are loaded that are not loaded in most other corners. Also, I was using front tires of medium compound and rear tires of hard endurance type compound. Also, front left tire goes up to the temperature not only because it is softer compound, but because it is heated up by front brakes on the warm-up lap. So, all this did so that rear left tire was late to go up to the temperature and pressure. However, after 4 laps from this lap, the grip fell down again. You can see how I was going 0.5 of a second slower till the middle of the corner on lap 8, but the car already was oversteering. Yeah, 4 laps between and a huge difference in grip. 0.5 difference in half of one corner. Crazy a lot. How much time I lost in this corner? Compared to the following lap, I was slower 0.03 of a second, which is 1/3 of 1/10 of a second. And this following lap, I would say I was fully on the limit and the tires were on their peak. Just not sure if we can count like this, as in this following lap, there were already other problems. We cannot take the best bits from each lap and calculate like this our best lap. But compared to the previous lap, which was the fastest lap of the weekend before this lap, I won 0.05 of a second in this corner. Second corner. This is the slowest corner of the track, and also probably it is one of the most tricky corners of the track to make it really right. Not sure about other cars, but it's really not easy one to deal with wheel spin and oversteer when exiting this corner in a Lamborghini car. Moreover, there are 2 possible lines out of this corner. It depends on car power and grip ratio on what line to choose. The point is that Lamborghini car is relatively high power and low grip car. So it means we want to make this corner as short as possible. In a Lamborghini, we brake as late as we can, we have very low speed in the middle of the corner, and we accelerate as soon as we can. Our Lamborghini was asking to pass the natural apex of the track, then make a sharp turn, and then accelerate. It looks something like this in this picture. Yes, if Lamborghini had low-powered engine, the line probably could look like this. The point is that if the car does not have strong engine, or to be more exact, grip-to-power ratio is more on the grip side, then we do not want to kill the speed, but instead we aim to keep the minimum speed pretty high, as high grip allows to keep this speed, and also it's not easy for low-powered engine to propel the car up to the speed again. This is why we make corners long in such cars. Theoretically, there is another option of the line for high power and low grip ratio cars. We can still fully accelerate a bit earlier if we let the car to go to the right side of the circuit. Just the difference with low power cars line is that the point where we touch the right side of the track is much further. You can see the comparison in the picture. However, I was not using this line. Naturally, I was feeling the inside line was better one. As if we take the outside line, this line requires more from the tires as the corner becomes much longer, so we scrub the tires more. The road we have to travel also becomes longer, so it takes more time. And the last reason is that not so many cars were using this line, so this line could be dirty. So we may have disadvantage in the following corners because of that. How much time I lost in this corner? I believe that nothing, or at least I cannot identify that I lost here. If you see in the video, the car has very tiny oversteer, but such oversteer does not lose a lap time. It just shows the car is fully on the limit. And it is not easy to achieve such limit, as the car here wants to go sideways and huge concentration is required to be on the limit, but not to have such power slides. I won 0.08 of a second over the previous lap in this corner alone. As you can see in the dash, on corner entry it was 0.05 won over the previous lap, and after the corner it was 0.13 won over the previous lap. 13 minus 5 equals 0.08 won. In this corner we have to carry in as much speed as possible, as it is after long and fast straight and there is no straight after it. But also, if we carry too much speed, then unfortunately we will ruin the perfect line to the next corner. So I'm braking a little bit earlier at around 100 meter sign and braking till a bit after the apex. Then I have a short acceleration phase. Usually I have a snap out at apex here, but on this lap it was pretty much okay. Just a small oversteer happened when the car was hitting the curb. How much time I lost here? I think it was okay here on this lap, and compared to the previous lap, I made this corner in exactly the same speed but won 0.08 of a second in the next corner, which is almost 1/10 of a second. It is because on this lap I'm on perfect line in this corner, which is more on the right side of the track, and this is why I'm able to carry more speed into the next corner. So, in this lap I managed to be on the perfect line while still traveling at the same speed as in the previous lap. I think it's logical, as my left tires seem to have reached the perfect working temperature on this lap, but we already talked about that in this video. This corner would be easy one, as it is just a connecting corner to the corner number 5. The only challenge of this corner is that there is a positive camber of the track surface in the middle of the corner, and we have to maximize it. And by the way, we must hit the left curb in this corner. I won 0.08 of a second in this corner. You can see it on the dash. But as I mentioned, talking about the third corner, this time gain happened because of the third corner mainly. Before arriving to this corner, the delta was minus 0.13. You can see it in the dash. And after the corner, the delta was minus 0.21. If we start the corner number 5 at the right point of the track, all this corner is pretty easy one, as the lowest speed point is already behind and we are accelerating through the whole of this corner. It is very important as ahead we have a long straight. In the middle of the corner, we have a positive surface camber, so we have plenty of grip here. It is a must to exploit it properly, as again, this corner is very important one for the lap time. And I have noticed that many of the drivers are not fully on the limit in this corner, and probably it is like this because of this positive camber. Probably somehow they don't think they have so much grip here. Moreover, psychology plays important role in this corner, the same as in the following corner, because they are both very fast corners with barriers not so far. In such case, a driver has to know how to switch a special button and tell to himself, that is fine, nothing bad will happen to me in this corner. This will unlock your potential and you will start feeling this corner much differently. What about the curb inside? You may hit it if it's not unsettling your car, because cutting it, you are enhancing the radius of the corner, so you can go faster through the corner. Moreover, if you need more rotation of the car, you should try to hit it. As for me, I was not able to hit it because I had too much of oversteer anyway. How much time I lost in this corner? I think I was fully on the limit here, and I would say I was a little bit over the limit. You can see that at the beginning of the corner I was doing small corrections, later one bigger correction was done. I won 400ths of a second over the previous lap till the middle of the corner here, as at this point the dash was showing minus 0.25 seconds over the previous lap. On the exit of the corner, I won 100 over the previous lap. As you can see in the dash, before the next corner it was minus 0.27 or minus 0.26 second delta compared to the previous lap. So, as we see, this not small oversteer did not take away some speed from me, or maybe it took away 100 of a second theoretically, but not more. By the way, I have noticed the drivers were having very different lines in this sequence of corners. I think the line should be as in this picture in most cars, unless yes, the car has really specific handling, maybe balance problem. We have to carry plenty of speed to the sequence of corners because we are arriving after the long and fast straight, so it means this corner is more important than the next corner. Of course, we shouldn't sacrifice this corner too much. So, we brake late, touch the right curb, then touch left curb. If we avoid left curb, it means we carried in not enough speed into third corner. Then we do the turning phase. We shouldn't go too much to the right here as there is no real point to do it. Yes, some would say this way we are positioning the car better for the fifth corner, but the point is that the fifth corner is so long that such line has no real benefit. Moreover, if you go more on the right, you may pick up dirt that will ruin your speed in the fifth corner and also in the following corners. Now, we're arriving to the fastest corner of the track. Probably you know from my previous videos that I was struggling massively in this corner. The car was oversteering here a lot. So I'm arriving at this corner, I'm keeping the throttle just a bit here, the car is slowly decelerating, I'm going over the bumps, telling to myself, amazing, no snapping out this time, so SimRacer, press the accelerator again. As simple as that. If you see, I had exactly the same speed in this corner as in my previous lap, but I did this corner on this lap with no oversteer, as opposed to the previous lap where I was having some small oversteer. You can see it here. But of course, it was far from the one I had in practice session. You can see it here. So how much time I lost in this corner? Not sure if I really lost. Maybe I could do slightly different line when entering this corner than asking not so much from the tires in the middle of the corner. But then I would probably have to touch dirty part of the track on this entry and etc. I was having bigger issues with this car and my driving, so I was not focusing on finding this 100 or 300ths of a second here. But I think I can win 3/10 in this corner if we fix the setup and ruin downforce. Let's wait till next race and see if we manage to do it. This is probably the most tricky corner of the track. It has a heavy braking phase, it has important curb on the apex, it has curb on the exit, and it has camber changes. If the balance of the car was right, probably it was worth going over this inside curb just to maximize the radius of the corner. But now, with this huge oversteer I had all the time to think how not to lose the rear end here. At no cost, I should have unsettled the car here. So for example, I wasn't even able to touch the inside curb. And as you see in this lap, there was a small snap out in the middle of the corner, but still on the braking phase. This corner comes after the high-speed straight, so it is very important to brake late here. So we have to brake till the apex or even past the apex here. But this is in ideal case, as usually we just cannot do this because of car balance problems. So the car snaps out, I scrub the speed of the car, and then I have to accelerate more than I was planning. The car starts to oversteer again, and I start to rely on traction control, you can hear it working by sound. And remember that after so many long left corners, the rear right tire is tired already, so also this could cause so unstable rear end. On the other hand, it is good to have low speed in the middle of the corner, but high speed at the end of the corner. But from another side, when we do like this, we are risking to overload the rear wheels on acceleration, and this way to have a power slide. This is why we have to be very careful between choosing which corner tactics is faster. In this case, I overslowed the car. But for example, if the car balance was more on the steering, this tactics was probably the fastest one. How much time I lost? I lost 600ths, which is equivalent to around half-tenth of a second. As you see in the dash, before the corner, the delta was minus 0.27 seconds compared to the previous lap, and after this corner it was minus 0.21 seconds. This is probably the most easy corner at outer ring. You just have to brake late to this corner and accelerate early. Of course, it is similar philosophy as with the corner number 2. It depends on the car if you have to keep high constant speed around the corner, or you have to go in fast, rotate the car in the middle of the corner and go out fast. But because of lapped car, I lost 2.6 tenths of a second compared to the previous lap in this corner. And all this time was lost on corner entry. Moreover, I could have picked some dirt here as I was out of racing line, so it even could have influenced the speed in the following corners. There is one very tricky part in this corner, as this corner is after some straight and before almost no straight, so it would seem that we have to be fast in and slow out of this corner. However, this corner has surface camber on the exit, and we want to use this camber for our advantage, so the drivers have to choose what suits them best. Here is the perfect example how the drivers are going in this corner differently. 3 leading drivers during the second race of GT Pro class had 3 different lines. You can clearly see that by tire marks on the tarmac. Raivo Tam was maximizing this positive corner camber, Oliver Tirma was maximizing corner entry, and I was going in the middle. So you have to test what works for you best here. And you have to check if you can use the apex curb here. Some cars like it and some not. On the corner exit, we can use the curb. I was able to use this curb here, but not an inch more. As if I tried to step over this curb, the curb was hitting really hard to the bottom of the car. The curbs are really high at outer ring. How much time I lost here? I think I did not lose anything on this lap here, or at least I cannot identify that. But for me, it seemed that the car was nicely balanced here and the car was on the perfect limit. As you see, I won exactly 1/10 of a second compared to the previous lap. You can see in the dash, the delta before the corner was plus 0.05 and after the corner was minus 0.05. Those left tires were still not at optimum on the previous lap, so the grip was worse on the previous lap and I was going slower. On this lap, they switched on and I was much faster here. This corner is a very important one, as it leads to the long straight. As you see in the video, I was decelerating when arriving to the corner apex, then going over the curb, and then started to accelerate. Everything would look really good here, but there was a short oversteer moment when I hit the curb. Yes, the car was still very unpredictable when going over the curbs. How much time I lost? Compared to the previous lap, I did this corner in totally similar speed. Before the corner and after the corner, it was minus 0.05 seconds delta compared to the previous lap. But yes, this oversteer didn't help, and I'm sure on this lap, left tires were better than on previous lap. So I would say in reality I lost up to 500ths of a second here. So what is the conclusion? I was pretty much happy with my driving, but I was too slow, as I still did not achieve the lap time I did 2 years ago. I wasn't telling it before, but the fact is that in 2019 I tested Lamborghini of Gera Dovana racing team. Those 2 years ago I was going on Hankook tires and now I'm going on Michelin's. On paper Michelin tire should be faster than Hankook, but probably we still have not managed to unlock the potential of Michelin tires yet. And I'm really surprised and disappointed that we cannot go as fast as 2 years ago on Hankooks because we had fallen factors those 2 years ago. Firstly, we were going on totally green track. The track was washed by rain before, so there was no rubber on the track. Secondly, this Gera Dovana car was previous specification model than our car, so on paper it should be a couple of tenths slower than our car. Third reason, this Gera Dovana car had air restrictors installed, so it had a bit less power. Again, it should be, I think, from couple of tenths of a second to half a second slower than our car just because of this factor. Also, the setup of the car was adjusted to another driver. The car was handled totally not the way I wanted, but I still even wasn't adjusting the brake balance during this test because this test was short and it wasn't my car. I wasn't the main driver of this car. Also, I had never driven before at this circuit in reality, just had training in simulator. But the problem that Autoring racing circuit is not very accurate in simulator world. And probably the most important was that I was driving a real racing car for the first time. Okay, somebody may have a different opinion here, but even if it's like this, it was a long time ago since I drove a real racing car before this test in 2019. So all those factors didn't help during this 2019 test. On paper now, we should be much faster than in 2019. So what? Hankook tire is much faster than Michelin? For now, I just don't have an answer to this question, and it's really frustrating for me. Okay, let's come back to what we have today. We did this lap record in 1 minute 13.72 seconds. Let's minus time lost in corners 7 and 8. So theoretically, we can estimate I could do this lap in 1 minute 13.4 seconds. Moreover, there were significant factors that were limiting our speed during this lap. The tires were 14 laps old and had 3 heat cycles. The car setup was totally wrong. The track was slow due to heat and dust, and we had ruined downforce of the car because of noise restrictions. So what math we could have overall? If everything was perfect, we could have from 1 minute 11.5 to 1 minute 10.5 lap time. Okay, I understand that it sounds insane. I just mentioned the numbers on paper. What would be if everything was ideal? But subscribe this channel, follow our next adventures at Autoring, and get information first if we manage to improve and by how much. Thank you for watching. Cheers!